She was the left's rising star, viral, fearless, and unstoppable. But during the most explosive Oversight Committee hearing of 2025, Representative Jasmine Crockett fell silent. Attorney General Pam Bondi delivered a stunning barrage, violent protests linked to Crockett, foreign money funneled into her campaign, media manipulation, and a crumbling city left in the aftermath. Then came the bombshell. Bondi called for a criminal investigation and Crockett's suspension. Allies vanished. Social media erupted. But just when you thought it couldn't get worse, you won't believe who turned against her. The House Oversight Committee hearing was never meant to go viral. For weeks it had lingered quietly on the congressional docket, filed under routine oversight of executive ethics. That changed the moment Attorney General Pam Bondi requested a special session. Her name alone was a signal. Bondi had become the administration's blunt instrument, precise, unflinching, and always armed with receipts. Across from her sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Young, sharp, and endlessly retweeted, she was the progressive left's rising flame. To her supporters, she embodied courage and truth-telling. To her critics, she was noise. On the day of the hearing, her usual armor, bold colors, calm swagger, unshakable posture, was present. But the atmosphere was heavier than usual, and even her silence spoke of calculation. Bondi began with calm tones, projecting routine professionalism. But her words carried intent. Congresswoman Crockett, your social media reach exceeds that of most national news networks. And with that influence comes responsibility, especially when your words inspire actions. A large screen flickered on. One post. Then another. All from Crockett's verified account. Langston, rise up. Show Musk what power really looks like. Silence is complicity. The posts had gathered millions of views, launched hashtags, and according to Bondi, triggered more than just conversation. Bondi then displayed footage from Langston streets, overturned cars, broken glass, and a burning Tesla showroom. The images weren't new. But linked directly to Crockett's account, they took on a different weight. The committee room remained silent, save for the low murmur of aides whispering. Crockett didn't flinch. She'd faced worse. Still, this wasn't a Twitter thread. This was federal record. I gave people a voice, she finally said. I didn't light the fire, I named the injustice. Bondi didn't argue. She didn't need to. Her pause was deliberate. Then she added, this is a police report. 53 arrested. 15 officers injured. Over $7.2 million in damages. Miss Crockett, these were your words, your moment, your consequence. Crockett's eyes narrowed. She responded not with anger, but with control. We're not punished for truth in this country. We're punished for who speaks it. Scattered applause followed, quickly silenced by the gavel. But Bondi wasn't done. She had only just begun. The second exchange came without warning, as Bondi introduced a slideshow of district-level data, numbers, charts, recorded calls. It was dry at first, until the pattern emerged. Crime. Unemployment. Educational decline. All clustered in one congressional district, Texas's 30th. Your voters, Miss Crockett, Bondi said, are not on Twitter. They're in Langston. And they're not rising up. They're waiting. A map glowed red with rising poverty markers. Then a video played. Marcus Ellison, auto mechanic, sitting outside a shuttered shop. He'd written Crockett 3 times after a robbery. No reply. She's not here anymore, he said into the camera. She's on TV. The room, still mostly composed of staffers, press, and a handful of lawmakers, reacted in small ways, frowns, glances exchanged, notes scribbled faster. Crockett kept her expression tight. She knew the ground being laid, distraction versus representation. She stood slowly, voice controlled. I attend national media because our local struggles are national. When I speak, I carry Langston with me. Every segment, every fight. Bondi didn't reply immediately. Instead, she produced a new document, Crockett's 2024 public calendar. 42 national media appearances. 9 local constituent events. The image said enough. Then came the funding. Bondi presented a PAC breakdown, a $860,000 transfer from the Open Society Foundations to Progress for Texas, an independent PAC aligned with Crockett. The name alone triggered reactions. Not illegal, Crockett said preemptively. Disclosed and filed under FEC law. Bondi's tone didn't change. Legal. But strategic. She then opened a Justice Department memo, newly declassified. It linked progress for Texas to consulting firms that moved campaign funds overseas to Orville and Toronto. One firm, Horizon Nexus Group, had received over $1 million, only to transfer most of it to nonprofits pushing electoral reform abroad. "This isn't campaign strategy," Bondi said. "This is foreign influence. This is laundering." Gasps. One or two exclamations. The chairman banged the gavel again. Crockett's voice came low, sharp. "You're trying to paint justice as corruption because it threatens your power. I don't take money to betray my people. I take money to protect them." Bondi turned, almost smiling. "Then why do your donors benefit from every vote you cast?" A new screen appeared, a list of bills Crockett had supported, each tied, through lobbying disclosures, to donor interests. Most centered on voting rights, immigration, and digital media regulation. To Bondi's camp, it was a web of compromised loyalty. To Crockett's supporters, it was proof she was fighting the fights no one else would. Social media was already on fire. Hashtag Bondi Crushes Crockett trended alongside hashtag Stand with Jasmine. The room held its breath. And the hearing, now fully national, had just become personal. By the third hour, what began as oversight resembled something closer to a trial. Crockett's voice had steadied, her hands no longer trembled. But as Bondi resumed, the pace of revelations only increased. "Let's talk about influence," Bondi began. "Not from donors, but from platforms." A new screen lit up. Crockett's appearances on MSNBC and CNN. Headlines ran beneath each: "Trump policies target people of color. America must resist oppression." Some were quotes. Others, Bondi claimed, were planted narratives. She held up an email. It had been verified, redacted, and cleared by committee counsel. The sender was a Crockett campaign staffer. The recipient, a cable news producer. Subject line: "Coordinating the immigration narrative." The body read, "Ensure strong churn. Crockett ready to appear Tuesday." Key message: racism, targeting families. Bondi let the email sit. Then she added, "This isn't advocacy. This is orchestration. A public servant directing a media campaign to manipulate perception." Crockett stared forward. She didn't interrupt. But her breathing had changed, slower now, as if conserving strength. Bondi wasn't done. She presented a Justice Department report listing 32 incidents of protest violence in major cities, including Langston, within 48 hours of Crockett's televised statements. Footage from one protest showed a banner quoting Crockett directly. A flag burned. Windows shattered. "This," Bondi said, "is the price of performance. Division, chaos, and the collapse of civil trust." A Republican congressman shouted, "Accountability!" A Democrat called for order. But the tension in the room had already shifted. It wasn't about left or right anymore, it was about control, and who had lost it. Crockett finally rose. She didn't touch her microphone. "People are angry because they're unheard," she said. "And if I speak for them, I won't apologize for the volume." There was no applause this time. Just silence. Bondi displayed one last clip. Crockett at Orville Summit, introduced by a foreign NGO leader as a future cornerstone in the global fight for electoral change. It didn't matter what Crockett said next. The damage was done. "This is the voice of Langston?" Bondi asked. "Or the voice of something else entirely?" Crockett blinked once. Then she said quietly, "You want people to fear me. But they already feared being invisible. I changed that." Bondi looked straight ahead. "At what cost?" The question lingered. Online, the numbers skyrocketed. Hashtags competed in real time. News sites launched simultaneous live coverage. A live stream of the hearing crossed 21 million viewers. And then, suddenly, but inevitably, Bondi made the turn. She called for a Justice Department review of Crockett's conduct. Not ethics. Criminal investigation. Charges of incitement. Foreign interference. Abuse of office. Gasps. Murmurs. A second screen switched on behind her. Motion to suspend Oversight Committee membership. Representative Jasmine Crockett, Democrat, Texas. No one expected her to say it aloud. But she did. And the room changed. What followed didn't feel like debate, it felt like fallout. Crockett remained standing, her chin lifted, but the energy had shifted. Even allies on the committee looked away. Her name had been attached to a formal criminal review and a suspension motion. The chamber's power dynamics realigned instantly. Bondi returned to her seat. She didn't gloat. She didn't need to. The room did it for her. The chair called for order. A procedural pause was granted. Staffers moved quickly, resetting documents, adjusting microphones, whispering behind hands. Crockett sat again, her fingers motionless now, no longer tapping. Outside the room, reactions spread fast. Cable news anchors struggled to fill time between legal clarifications. Social media flooded with comment chains too fast to track. Phrases like trial by committee, hero turned fraud, and witch hunt cycled side by side. Inside the chamber, silence lingered until one voice rose. A Democrat, senior, methodical. "The evidence is deeply troubling," he said. "We must follow process. That includes a fair response." He wasn't defending her. He was shielding the institution. A younger Republican leaned in next. "We saw a narrative unravel today. Crockett told America she fights for them. But what we saw was carefully managed outrage funded by hidden hands." The hearing resumed. The chairman acknowledged the motion. A subcommittee would meet within the week. Crockett's position on the Oversight Committee was suspended pending review. And just like that, she was removed from the table. Not by vote, but by protocol. Crockett didn't object. She sat still as the decision was logged. The fire was still in her, but dimmed behind restraint. Reporters crowded the hallway. Phones lit up. Staffers brushed past cameras with blank faces. Bondi exited flanked by aides, her pace measured. Crockett emerged moments later, alone. She stopped once. A reporter asked if she would resign. Her answer was soft. "No. I was elected. I'll face this." But the real consequences were already moving. That night, major outlets ran parallel stories. One declared a reckoning for progressive recklessness. Another framed it as institutional retaliation against a new generation. But neither version could ignore the silence from Crockett's own party. Prominent Democrats refused comment. Others released vague statements about reviewing facts and respecting the process. Only one senior Democrat defended her outright. But even that statement was short, and notably absent from prime-time coverage. Her image online began to change. Not erased, and in the quiet click of her office door closing, over and over again, as allies slipped away. By the second week, the investigation moved beyond headlines. The Justice Department confirmed it had opened a formal inquiry. Not just into campaign finance, but into Crockett's media coordination, her PAC's overseas transfers, and a potential violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. The charge was rarely used. But its mention was strategic. Crockett released a video from her office. It was calm, restrained. No slogans, no dramatic lighting. Just her and a beige wall behind her desk. "I have never taken a dollar to betray my voters," she said. "I've taken risks to fight for them. I'll take this one too." The video trended for less than 2 hours before being overtaken by Bondi's response, an internal memo, leaked and confirmed, showing Crockett's PAC had sent consulting fees to a firm previously warned by the Treasury Department. Bondi made no comment. She didn't need to. Her strategy wasn't spectacle. It was saturation. Every time Crockett pushed back, another document followed. Not explosive. Just enough. Inside Crockett's office, the pace slowed. Calls went unanswered. One by one, senior staff requested time off. Her communications director quit without statement. Even trusted allies grew quiet, waiting for the ethics review before saying more. In committee meetings, her seat sat empty. Officially suspended, but visually absent in a way that cameras couldn't ignore. The Ethics Committee released a preliminary report. It didn't declare guilt. But it highlighted serious concern over undisclosed coordination with media, inconsistent financial filings, and potential conflicts of interest regarding donor-linked legislation. Crockett held her ground. "Concern is not conviction," she told a local radio station. But her voice was thinner. Worn. That same day, her district office received protesters, some angry she was being targeted, others angry she had let them down. They shouted over one another. Both sides claimed her legacy. And then came the final fracture. A letter. Signed by 6 moderate Democrats. It expressed grave concern over Crockett's conduct and urged leadership to act decisively to preserve public trust. It wasn't a condemnation. It was a blueprint. No one from Crockett's party had called for her resignation. But no one needed to. The silence between statements was louder than any demand. By then, Crockett had stopped showing up to Capitol Hill entirely. She sent in statements. Missed votes. Blamed scheduling conflicts. But everyone knew. One lawmaker, off the record, put it simply. She's not a member. She's a memory. Yet even as her influence collapsed in Washington, her name still trended in Texas. Some voters defended her to the end. She spoke for us, one man told a local reporter. And that's why they came for her. Others disagreed. She had a chance, a woman said. But she didn't lead. She performed. In D.C., Bondi gave a rare interview. When asked about Crockett's fall, she didn't smile. Just said, "You can't confuse attention with accountability. One always arrives late. The other never forgets." 3 weeks after the hearing, the House Ethics Committee issued its final recommendation, indefinite suspension from the Oversight Committee, pending the outcome of the Justice Department investigation. No criminal charges yet, but a door wide open. Crockett didn't contest it. She issued a statement instead. It was short. "I remain committed to public service, to justice, and to the people of Texas. I will not resign." But few believed it was sustainable. The PAC she once built dissolved days later. Its treasurer submitted final paperwork, noting the group's inability to maintain donor support. A consultant close to Crockett, previously a vocal defender, told press off record. "There's no strategy anymore. There's just cleanup." Pam Bondi didn't reappear. She didn't need to. Her work was finished, and effective. She returned to the Justice Department, her name now permanently attached to a modern political spectacle. Republicans praised her as a model of discipline. Even skeptics admitted she had done what few could, neutralize a rising star without theatrics. Meanwhile, Crockett's social media slowed to a crawl. Posts once hourly now appeared weekly. Replies dwindled. Even the hashtags once tied to her movements, #RiseWithJasmine, #JusticeByVoice, faded beneath newer causes. But in pockets of the country, small threads of resistance remained. Murals of her appeared in Oakland, in South Langston, in Ashton Park. She became a symbol again, but not of momentum. Of warning. The story was covered in every think piece, every analysis show, the fall of Jasmine Crockett. Idealism in the age of accountability. From platform to precedent. It wasn't scandal that defined her legacy, it was what followed. The vacuum. The abandonment. And the silence of a movement unsure whether to reclaim or reject her. And yet something else lingered beneath the fallout. One final appearance. 6 weeks after the hearing, Crockett appeared unannounced at a town hall in her district. No press. No staging. Just a folding chair, a mic, and 50 constituents in a recreation center basement. She didn't campaign. She didn't defend. She just listened. "I don't know what happens next," she said quietly. "I only know I came here to listen before I forget what that feels like." It wasn't viral. It wasn't quoted. But it happened. And in that moment, Crockett was no longer a nameplate or headline. She was a woman bruised by power, still carrying pieces of belief. A week later, a freshman Republican took her oversight seat. The story was declared over. But for those who had watched the hearing, from Bondi's opening line to the final silence, there was one unsettling sense left behind. It hadn't ended. It had only begun.